Introducing the sponsors of the Legend Award, McCarter and English, a business and financial services litigation practice representing many of the country's leading enterprises, and the University of Pennsylvania, a world-renowned Ivy League university offering boundary-breaking innovations dating back to its founder, Benjamin Franklin. Presenting the Legend Award this evening are Philip Amoa, corporate attorney for McCarter and English's Venture Capital and Emerging Growth Companies practice, and Dr. Larry Jameson, Executive Vice President and Dean of Perelman School of Medicine of the University of Pennsylvania.
The definition of a legend is a famous or important person known for doing something extremely well. However, that doesn't even begin to adequately describe the accomplishments of Richard Vague. Richard Vague is currently managing partner of Gabriel Investments, an early-stage venture capital fund, and also chair of the Governor's Woods Foundation, a nonprofit philanthropic organization. Previously, he was co-founder and CEO of Energy Plus, and also co-founder and CEO of two consumer banks, First USA and Juniper Financial.
Richard also serves on the University of Pennsylvania Board of Trustees and the Penn Medicine Board of Trustees, as well as a number of business boards, including Franklin Square Energy and Power Fund. He's also on the boards of the Franklin Institute, the Museum of the American Revolution, the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, and Visit Pennsylvania. Richard has an insatiable interest in science, economics, art, and music. He is a Renaissance man committed to making our world a better place. PACT is honored to include Richard as this year's Legend for Lifetime Achievement. Let's watch the video.
Well, I had trained to be an artist. I had trained from a very, very young age to be an artist. And, up until my, late teens, early 20s, that had always been my intention, was to be an artist. I was pretty oblivious to what the climate was back then. I know there was generally kind of a cynical sentiment. There was, at my university, which was the University of Texas, there was generally kind of an undercurrent of anti-business sentiment, which I certainly shared, by the way. I had no intention of becoming a business person.
We've been lucky enough to have Richard on the board of the FS Funds now for several years, and Richard brings real acumen, sense of calm, professionalism. He's a true leader. He's on our energy fund. Richard is from Texas, for those of you who don't know, and has a deep background in the energy space based upon where he grew up, and brings leadership acumen and a steady hand to the board.
Well, I think the first big break we had, strangely enough, was when we were part of a bank holding company in Texas, and the oil crisis hit. This was in the 80s. Our parent was failing because of the oil crisis in Texas, and we had to find a new destiny for ourselves or for our division. And we went private in a leveraged buyout at that time. And as part of that, we did it to save our jobs, but as part of that, in those days, you got an options package. So what really changed things for us was the crisis that resulted in us having options in our own company.
Delaware and the greater Philadelphia region have been so blessed to have Richard's contributions to the field. I know there are many hundreds of people working in Delaware today because of companies Richard had a hand in starting and leading. And I particularly appreciate that Gabriel Investments is regional in its focus. Congratulations, Richard. Thank you again for the opportunity to be with you, and keep up the great work.
Well, I would argue that there's no dichotomy between art and business. The core of art, the part that I loved, was the creative part. And the core of business, frankly, is the creative part. Businesses today cannot survive without innovating. So for me, it's always been the same thing. And frankly, that's what drives me today, is the desire to be involved in innovative, creative things. And today we're investing in early stage companies, and so we see a parade of brilliant folks come through that have great ideas, and it's fun to be around that.
I'll give you a perfect example of the way Richard operates. He called me and said one day, he said, I'm doing a little fundraiser for the Abramson Cancer Center. They're doing some amazing things up at Penn, in the battle against cancer. There's some incredible tests, pilot programs that they have. Richard was right. The things that they're doing at Penn and in the Abramson Center are absolutely incredible, absolutely off the charts. And, you know, Richard supported that because it was the right thing to do. I mean, you know, think of the difference in the world if we could get rid of cancer. And it would be amazing. And there's nothing in it for him. Nothing in it for him at all. He's not very much interested in having anything named after him, like a lot of people who engage in philanthropy. He's just in it for all the right reasons. And that's why you got to just, when Richard calls me, as busy as I am, I always pick up the phone.
Well, you know, in my case, I was inspired by this person. He was young like I was. I was very young. I was 21 or 22, and he was the 30-year-old president of a bank. So, you know, that in itself was inspiring. He was very practical. He was very smart, very driven. But the thing that, you know, he did for me was to give me room, to give me space, to give me things to do and then not micromanage it. So it really was a partnership where I got to use, you know, all my talents. And I think the other critical thing that happened many times along the way was he supported me even when I screwed up. So, and there were, you know, there's still many times where I screw up, but in those early days, before I'd had any track record or deserved support necessarily, there were a couple of moments where he stepped in and backed me up in important ways.
Richard's the most personally generous person that I've ever met. And generosity, as we typically think about it, involves nonprofit organizations, things that are done in public. But I've seen Richard in so many cases extend kindness, graciousness, resources of all types to people that he barely knows and is unlikely to ever see again. And you know, I'm not talking about family and friends or anybody that has anything to gain. I'm talking about people who he sees in need, or just develops a heartfelt interest in, and he's extended himself just so many times in ways. But Richard is so unselfish and so humble. I know that they'd rather be left unspoken.
I haven't been here for that long, you know, in this part of the country, but for a couple of decades. And, you know, that's short by some standards. So, but even in that time frame, you know, I think we've seen Philadelphia go from a place that is a little bit stodgy to one that's significantly more vibrant. I can remember hearing years ago that, you know, whenever a new insurance product came out, California was the first place in the country to adopt it, and Philadelphia was always the last. So, well, that's, you know, that's changed. You know, we see a lot of, there's a lot of young business leaders in this community who are already accumulated a lot of wealth, are very driven, are, you know, very much leaders in this community. I'm very confident about the Philadelphia future because of that. And I think our stodgy days are largely behind us.
In congratulating Richard Vake.
Wow. I'm deeply humbled. Thank you, Philip and McCarter and English, for your gracious introduction and sponsorship. And thanks to Dr. Larry Jameson and Penn Medicine, the scientific superstars who are changing healthcare. I'm humbled to be given this award since so many true legends many of which are here tonight, came before me. Legends such as John Martinson, David Cohen, Ira Lubert, Steve Goodman, Bob Keith, Roseanne Rosenthal. I do not belong in their company. Thanks to Dean Miller, PAC Chairman Nate Lentz, Andy Cherry, Charles Robbins, Michael Heller, Mark Letterman, Brian Lobley, and the entire PAC board and team for tonight. Thanks to Governor Ed Rendell, leader of the Renaissance in Philadelphia. Thanks to Michael Foreman, perhaps our greatest entrepreneur. And thanks to Kevin Kleinschmidt, to whom I owe the credit for my own success. A special thanks to Jonathan Brassington for generously hosting me, my family, and my colleagues tonight. He's a past PAC chairman and current board member, an invaluable partner at Gabriel Investments, and I continue to be inspired by his incredible success at Liquid Hub. And thanks to those of you who made a program tribute and for your support and friendship over the years. I need to thank my colleagues at Gabriel Investments who have led me into this richly rewarding experience in early stage investing. Holly Flanagan, my co-investors, Scott Tardy, Kevin Donahoe, Mike Hagan, Jeff Harrow, Rick Horowitz, Tony Ibargwin, Henry Nassau, the extraordinary Sashi Reddy, and Doc Parji. I'm proud to be among this all-star group. And thanks especially to my wonderful wife, Laura, and to my beautiful family, Lauren, Ken, Eric, Mikhail, Victoria, Sophia, and Davis. I'm thankful for your love and support. Luckily for me, the video tonight did not highlight any of my mistakes. But I assure you, for every success I have had, there were many, many failures. I have learned that success is about perseverance, because every day has its own defeats. I reflect often on the words of Mary Pickford, movie megastar and later studio founder in the earliest days of Hollywood. She said, "If you have made mistakes, even serious mistakes, there is always another chance for you. And supposing you have tried and failed again and again, you may have a fresh start at any moment you choose. For this thing we call failure is not the falling down, but the staying down." Congratulations to all the wonderful companies here tonight, and thank you again for this amazing award.